And welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Chris Kelso, here for the last segment of the show. And what a great morning it has been so far. We have Charles Alvarez, Cornerstone Business Coaching. Charles, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. How are you, Chris?
Doing very well, thank you. You know, for all those listeners who don't know who you are, just in case, let us know really fast who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm the CEO of Cornerstone, and we work with overworked and underpaid professional service companies to free up their time and scale their business. And I'm super excited to have with us Diane LeMaire with us with CF, that's for short, Creative Financial Staffing. Diane, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Great having you here.
So, Diane, tell us a little bit about your business.
Okay, so CFS is a staffing company. We've been in business for over 20 years. We were actually originally founded by CPA firms, which is kind of interesting, but about 2 years we became an ESOP. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's an employee-owned company. So it's really, really exciting. In Houston, our office has been open for over 10 years now. And basically what we do is we help companies find great talent in the accounting and finance arena. We work with everybody from, your small mom and pops that need help to your Fortune 1000 companies. Basically, if you need an accountant or a finance professional, we're the ones that come in and try to help you with that.
That's awesome. So, Diane, can you kind of walk us through what are some of the challenges that you see that your clients are facing, and how does your company specifically help address those challenges?
I think clients call us for several different reasons, but I think one of the top reasons is they just don't have the time or the internal resources to hire someone on their own. A lot of times these people that are calling us are controllers, or maybe they're accounting managers. They could be a CFO. And when they're calling us, they already have a spot open or they have some type of additional work coming their way, and they simply just don't have the time to take on that spot and do that work and then also try to find top talent in the market. So they're just short on time, and I think that's why we're able to help them.
That's awesome. So you mentioned, Diane, that there were different size ranges of companies that you work for. What do you find is your niche? Like what companies do you find that you can add the most value to, and how big are they, and what industries are they in?
In Houston, most people would say oil and gas, but actually we don't do a whole lot of oil and gas, maybe service-related companies. I would say our smallest client is probably $5 million in annual sales. Our largest, probably a couple of billion. Where we probably come in the most is probably your small to medium-sized companies because, again, they probably don't have an internal recruiting department. They don't have any resources. They don't have the time to go through ads and try to figure out who the best person is for their opening. We're very strategic in that we spend a lot of time on the phone with our clients, but we also meet them in person, and we take a lot of time on the front end really to figure out what are their needs, how can we help them, how can we save them the time of going through this process, and that usually streamlines a lot of things for them. So, our objective is always, no matter how big or small you are, is to find you the best person on your budget, and more importantly, as quickly as possible, because you don't need that position open too long.
Diane, I want to interject something. This is Chris. Interesting you're talking about oil and gas. One of the things that we talk about all the time is oil and gas actually is number 6 or 7 now on the employment list here in Houston. Obviously, healthcare and healthcare-related services being number 1 on that list. And then you got retail services and technology and distribution. You got the Port of Houston. It's pretty amazing how you are seeing nowadays how we have diversified here in Houston. And being as diversified as we are, obviously you mentioned you take care of a lot of areas. Is there a specific area in regards to a profession and or a, not just oil and gas, let's say healthcare or something, or is it across the board that you can work with?
We work with all industries, honestly. I've been through a couple of recessions in Houston now, so I've learned to diversify my portfolio, if you say. So we work with anything from real estate to construction, retail, manufacturing. One of my biggest clients is retail, auto sales. Anything that you can possibly imagine. I think where we come in probably the most with most clients is staff accountants, senior accountants, accounting managers. That's probably where we help the most, where they just have a hard time finding good talent.
So, if you wouldn't mind, Dan, can you kind of walk us through a recent case study or story as to how you're able to service a client, and what their challenge was, and how you were specifically able to help them address it?
Sure. Actually, I have one of my favorite stories that I love to tell, especially when I hire new employees, even in our own office. Is I had met a candidate, and we meet all our candidates face to face, and she had just moved to Houston with her husband. She had a great background and obviously didn't have a job, so she needed to find a position pretty quickly. And I had noticed that a client that we'd worked with before, a few years back, had posted something online, and she was perfect for the position. So I picked up the phone and I called the client, and we talked through what his needs were and what was going on. And throughout the conversation, I found out that his controller had resigned. Her last day was going to be next Friday, so obviously he was stressed. He was worried. His ad had just hit that morning, so he's like, I just don't know, that I can find somebody in time to get them started. So I had told him about this candidate. It was actually a Friday morning. We set up the interview for him to meet her that afternoon. After he met her, he decided, hey, I want to hire her. She's going to be my new controller. But HR said that he needed a day or two to get the paperwork in line, which is understandable. So according to HR, she probably couldn't get started until Wednesday, and we would have lost, 2 to 3 days with the cross-training opportunity. So, suggested to the client that he bring her on as a contractor for 2 days. They could cross-train and then bring her on payroll, the third day. And this way they didn't lose any time. So basically I took the order on Friday. The candidate started on Monday, and everybody was happy and satisfied, I guess. Good customer.
Well, that's awesome. How and so what is the state of that controller right now? Is he still there, or what's going on there?
So yes, and they've hired ever since then. They had hired a staff accountant from us. That they use somebody on an interim basis. It's a smaller client too, so they're not huge, and they don't have a ton of needs, throughout the year, maybe one a year or so. But there's somebody that we still continue to work with.
The other thing I find very interesting and really cool about your firm, I'm really big into niche and the specialization because it really helps create your brand. I know we really didn't talk about this previously, but I'm just curious, why did you pick, financial positions as the area to focus in?
I think no matter what the state of the economy, you're always going to need your accountants. I mean, it's never going to go away. And I think with things like Sarbanes-Oxley that have happened and, just everything that comes through government regulations, that part of the business will never go away. So it's a very stable, I think, segment to get into. I have 2 little kids. I'm certainly going to recommend that they go to school and get an accounting degree. Not sure if I'm going to get my way, but I'm going to try. So I just think it's a great niche.
So if somebody actually calls your company and is interested in learning more about what you do or what you can provide them, kind of walk us through what the process is. So if one of our listeners called you and they have a need in accounting or finance, walk me through what would the process be if they reached out and called you and or your company. What can they expect in terms of conversation or process?
Well, I think the first thing we'll try to identify in the phone call is what is your need? Are you needing somebody on a temporary basis? Do you need more of maybe an interim solution at a higher level, or is this direct hire? So we'll kind of figure that out in the first couple minutes and make sure that you're speaking to the appropriate person. Once you get in touch with the appropriate person, then we're going to walk through a series of questions and really get a lot of detailed information about what the need is and how we can help, and then we're going to make our recommendations. There's usually a follow-up visit, hopefully the next day, where we can come out for maybe 15 minutes and meet with you in person and kind of see who you are and what your environment looks like, so we make sure that we make a good match. And from there, we start presenting candidates, and hopefully we don't overload. We just try to, show them the best talent we possibly can. So that's usually 3 to 4 different candidates that they can select from, and then we'll walk them through the interview process. Some clients like to come into our office to kind of streamline it again and make the process shorter, so they'll actually meet people back to back in our offices and then take their finalists back to their office. We help with the negotiation of the offer, kind of guiding them through that, making sure that everybody's happy. We stay with them through the entire process, and even post-hire, we check in frequently, making sure that both parties are happy. It's very important that both the client and the candidate are obviously very happy.
You know, Charles and Diane, I can talk about finance all day long because, trust me, it's something that's passionate to me. But unfortunately, the show has to eventually end today, and today is no different right there. I'll start off with you, Diane Delgado LeMaire. How can we reach you if you don't mind?
So the best way to get a hold of me is obviously calling my office, which is 713-260-5238. You can also find me on LinkedIn. That's probably where most people find me. Just put in Diane Delgado LeMaire. I accept all invitations too, so you can always find me there. Or if you like Twitter, I'm on Twitter too at CPA Recruiter HOU. You can find me there as well. So
that is awesome. And Charles, how about you, sir?
Best way to get a hold of me is my direct line, which is 713-530-9764. And if you'd like to learn more, you can always go to cornerstonebusinesscoaching.com.
That is awesome. Again, thank you very much, Diane. Thank you very much, Charles, for being on The Price of Business this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you all very much. For all those listening, you can listen to The Price of Business all the time, even though the show is ending today. You can catch us out on priceofbusiness.com, where all of this show and all of our past shows are always there. Until next time, we are out.